I'm thrilled to introduce our speaker. I'm going to introduce Vice President Betsy Mennel. Betsy is Vice President for University Advancement at Weber State. So University Advancement is in charge really of building and deepening relationships on behalf of the university and really raising money for Weber State. Betsy holds a PhD in Educational Administration from the University of Texas at Austin. Prior to that, she attended St. Edward's University and St. Mary's College, which is in Indiana. And I've known Betsy here for a couple of years. She does great work. And for all of you quota-bearing salespeople out there, know that Betsy this year, Weber State, they're running a very large capital raising campaign. They're trying to raise $200 million. And Betsy informed us that they're at 128 million in raised so far. So everybody has some sort of quota in their life, and Betsy certainly is no different. So I'm thrilled that she's here. So I will turn the time over to Betsy Mennel.
Thank you, Phil. Great introduction and great description of what we do in university advancement. So appreciate that. And I'm learning that there's a lot of similarities in the type of work that we do with what all of you do. So I am thrilled. I'm super honored to be with you today. And I was going to say good morning, but good afternoon or good near evening for wherever you may be calling in from. What I would love if you would just put in chat, where are you today? While you're doing that, I will tell you that I am based in Ogden, but currently I am in Phoenix. And we were talking before most people joined and talking about the weather, and well, it's really nice in Phoenix. I'll just say that. So it was a chilly 60 degrees this morning, 60 degrees Fahrenheit this morning, on the way to 85. So it's beautiful. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun seeing all the folks. I'm looking at where you're all coming in from, and that's great. And just because I'm afraid I will forget, I will let you know, for those of you who are in northern Utah, I am planning to attend the reception Friday at 11 a.m. in Ogden. So if you're able to come, I would love to meet you in person. So this is so much fun. I'm just watching all the places that you're calling in from. So thank you. So I'm going to share a little more about my background throughout our conversation, but I'm going to start with a story. And as you listen to this story, I would like you to think of a time, and perhaps just a couple words, throw a few words in the chat, of a time when you were in a situation where you felt like you didn't belong, or you felt like you were an imposter. And so, as Phil said, I am a vice president at Weber State University, and one of four. And the university has more than 33,000 students, so it's a large organization. So, in other words, I'm an executive at a large organization, and so. Last year, we had an event at the president's home, and at the time, president was a male, and this is important because there were 32 people attending this dinner at the president's house, and there were 16 male-female couples, and as we often do at events like this, we do introductions, and so everyone goes around the table and they do introductions, and for every single couple, again, male-female couple, the male of the couple stood up and introduced himself and then said, and this is my wife, and said her name, and that was it, and she didn't speak. So I was the only female who actually stood up and introduced myself and said, oh, and this is my husband next to me. And so it's just, I share the story to say that even at this point in my career, there are still times when you look around and say, what am I doing here? Do I belong here? And imposter syndrome continues. And so, and is that a bad thing? Not necessarily, because what that means is we're stretching ourselves and we're stretching the boundaries. And so I encourage all of you, when you feel that uncomfortable, you don't belong, that just think about the fact that first of all, you do belong, and that it is an opportunity that perhaps the next time there's an event like that, the person sitting in our seat will feel like they belong. So I love your give to gain theme this is the broad, I recognize it's not just Market Star, I think, but it's a broad theme that we're focusing on. And in part because it fits really well with philanthropy. So as Phil mentioned, my job is very much about working with potential donors to make philanthropic investments in Weber State University. And if that isn't the greatest example of give to gain, on a larger level, I don't know what is. But also, it's what does that look like personally as we're coming up through our careers and assisting others to move up in their careers as well. Excuse me. So I'd like to share just a little bit about my background and some of the things that have happened along the way, and hopefully it will be useful to all of you. So I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I've lived in 8 different states, primarily in the West and Midwest: California, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, Indiana, Illinois, Texas, Minnesota. And I mention that because that's very much shaped who I am, living in these different places and learning the cultures and learning how to fit in and how to say words. And every place you live has a word that's spelled one way, and then you try to say it and it's completely wrong. And so just learning the language and such is important. And I know many of you have national and international experience that have also shaped who you are. And so I started my higher education career at St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas. And I was there for 3.5 years. And I was looking for an opportunity to advance my career, and it was a relatively small excuse me, institution. And in order for me to advance, I needed to leave. So I went to work for United Way, again in Austin, Texas. And it was a great opportunity, great professional opportunity, because I had the opportunity at the ripe age of 27 to recruit, hire, train, and manage a staff of 7. And so I did this, and then as I was doing this, at this point now, I had my master's degree. I'd gotten that from St. Edward's University, and I wanted to go on to get my doctorate. And the University of Texas was a mile away from my office at United Way. And I asked the leaders my boss and then the CEO, if I could leave 1 hour early, 2 days a week to go take classes. They said no. Don't ever work for an organization that doesn't want you to better yourself. And the fact that all of you are on this call today tells me that you work for an organization that wants you to better yourselves. So it just doesn't make any sense to do that. And that's one way we can give to gain, is how do we help employees better themselves, whatever that looks like for them. Now, I work in education, right? So that's really, really important to me. And we have lots of our employees who are going on to further their education, sometimes not even at Weber State, because Weber State doesn't offer doctorates in certain programs. So they'll go to University of Utah. And that is something that we should always be supportive of and say yes to. And so after I completed my coursework at the University of Texas, I started my real development career at Northern Arizona University in the College of Education. And so I was the director of development for the College of Education. So again, raising funds for that particular college. And did that for about a year and a half. And then the person who was the director of development in the College of Business and came to me and said, "Hey, I'm moving up to the associate vice president position. I'd like you to come backfill my position in the business college." And so I have to admit, my first inclination was to say no. So one of the things I want to encourage today is that think about saying yes and taking risks. And so I didn't say no right away, but I had some hesitation. And so we went out to a lunch. And so it was the current director of development, the current dean, and then there was a new dean coming in, and me. And so there were the 4 of us talking about this opportunity where I would work with this new dean in the College of Business. And the reason I was hesitant is that my doctorate is in the College of Education, University of Texas, and I could go anywhere in any university in a college of education and kind of know how it works. And a college of business was very foreign to me. That wasn't a world that I had done before. So went to this lunch, and I hit it off with the dean who was leaving, but the dean who I was going to be working with did not hit off well with him. And so, but long story short, I ended up taking the position. I ended up working for that person for 14 years. And to this day, he and his wife are some of our best friends. And so it was just an opportunity of take a little risk and be open to trying something different. And it ended up being, that was the thing, that was the number one thing that put my career on the trajectory that it is now. And continue to thank that person who asked me to take that position over the years, and thanking him for giving me that opportunity that changed so many things. And so at NAU, then I was the director of development for the business college, and then the dean moved up to the vice president of university advancement position now, and then asked me to become the associate vice president. And again, I was kind of hesitant. Why do you ask? Why don't we just say yes, right? But no. And the reason was I loved my job. I mean, I loved what I was doing in the College of Business. I felt like we were being really successful. It was a lot of fun, and I was going to move into this new position and have to supervise a bunch of people. And I was like, I don't know, but he talked me into it, and again, great move. Again, allowed me to become a vice president later in time. And and it felt a little risky to me because I'm like, what? I know how to raise money. I don't know if I know how to supervise people who raise money, kind of thing. And so, but I had this opportunity, and it turned out well. And then eventually he retired, and then I had the opportunity, fortunately, to become vice president at NAU. But before that happened, when I was still AVP, I had an opportunity, and I knew I wanted, at that point, I'd been associate vice president for a while, and I knew, like, I want to be a vice president. I starting to figure that out, that I think I could do this and hopefully have a positive impact. And so I was recruited by Fort Lewis College, which is in Durango, Colorado. It's another beautiful small mountain town, at an institution that very much aligned with my values. It's very Indigenous focused. And the person who was consulting with NAU was also consulting there. And she said, yeah, you should apply for this job. So I did. I was offered the job. And I love the president. I hit it off with her, love the president. And so again, I'm associate vice president. I now have an offer on the table to be a vice president. I actually turned it down. And the reason I turned it down is I wanted a shot at being the vice president at NAU. But it was a risk because that was not a given at all. The position wasn't even open at that point. And so, but it ended up being the right choice for me. And as time went on, the position did become open. I became interim and then eventually permanent vice president. So haven't quite got to Weber, but we're getting there. Okay, so so I actually started at Weber State in August 2019, so I'm in my 7th year. And when I started, there were 6 vice presidents, and then the president. And of that group of 7, I was the only woman at the table. And we would have regular meetings where it would be just the 7 of us in a room, right? And so, and was I cognizant of it? Absolutely, right? But was it something that always framed my thinking? Not necessarily, until one of the deans. So we have 7 colleges, like business college, education college, et cetera. We have 7 of those at Weber State, and each of them has a dean. So it's kind of like if you're draw an org chart, kind of be like the next level of management down. And the deans were very heavily women to men. In fact, they were all women except for one male. And one of the deans, female deans, came to me and said, "Hey," said, we see you and we know you're going to represent us there." And so it really, it changed my mindset a little bit, that wow, like they're looking at this, that I'm representing them here at the table. And so that really stuck with me. And again, another one of those situations, like, what am I doing here at this table, right? But again, you need to tell yourself that you belong. And so we talk about give to gain. One of the things that I was thinking about is that and this is a global example, but what are policies that disproportionately impact certain populations? And so an example of that is northern Utah. Sometimes it snows. And sometimes we have either a weather closure, so the entire day that schools and businesses might be closed, or there'll be a weather delay. And so, and what that means is that the schools, and I'm talking about K through 12, primary, secondary school, that they'll have a 2 hour delay while they let the roads get clear and then they'll start school. And so what will happen, let's assume that you have a first grader in the house, and all of a sudden you, and if you happen to have a partner at the house, you're both getting ready to leave for work, and you're like, oh, okay, well, now someone needs to stay home with Junior here, who's 6 years old, and we can't just leave him. And the reality is that more likely than not, it's going to be the woman in the household, if it is a male female household, who will stay home with the kid. And so for Weber State to not align with the school districts, in my mind, was disproportionately affecting our female workers. And I actually never won this argument in our prior administration. And I will tell you that the two key decision makers were both men who had stay-at-home wives. And so it was, when this happened for them, it didn't impact them at all. But it certainly impacted, and I heard about it from lots of people in my office. I have lots of employees who have school-age kids, and are like, this is really hard for us. And, we have to take time off of work to stay at home with our kid. And now, it's a little more flexible, right, with post-COVID. But one of our policies at the university is if you are working at home, you cannot be doing childcare. It's one or the other. And so, and we know that, that's not a hard line, right? That's just not realistic. But I think it's just important this is a way for us to think about, and I'm using this example for women, but there's lots of other examples of certain populations that can be impacted by things. And to me, that's a way to give to gain, is what are we doing? And I'm fortunate now that I'm in a position where hopefully I can help influence those kinds of policies. And so that's such an important piece. So one of the things I want to excuse me, emphasize is how important it is to say yes and to take risks and to look out for each other. So I'm just curious for this group, if you would just real quick throw in the chat, if you supervise, manage people, put in a number, and if you don't, just put no. So we can, so you just kind of see if this is going to resonate with the group. And if your answer is no, put if you want to, don't want to. So, okay, so we have kind of a mix. Want to, I don't want to, I love that. Okay, great. It's have before and would love to, excellent. So it's such an important role when we have this opportunity, and there's informal and formal ways of having influence, right? But when you have the opportunity, you have people reporting to you. Again, it's an opportunity to influence and to take care of people. And so I have always had the philosophy that it is people over organization. And if you take care of the people, they will take care of the clients, the job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And interestingly enough, one of my former colleagues, he's now retired, who is a dear friend, and we remained friends, even though we had complete disagreements on some things. He was 100% about the organization first. And we would have a lot of disagreements about this, because I'm like, no, you take care of the people. Like, no, you take care of the organization. And so, and yes, there's some probably happy medium ground in there, but I just think it's something to think about. What is your philosophy as you supervise people? And it's really important to understand what motivates your employees. And I encourage you to have those individual conversations with people. Ask them, and if you say what motivates them, that may or may not resonate, but ask what energizes you when you come to work every day. And conversely, what sucks the energy out of you? Like, oh man, I have to do this. And all of this, we have what we call contact reports. I'm sure you have some sort of reporting, something that everyone hates doing it. And you have to do it though. And that's how oftentimes you get to your quotas, because you have to put this information in. And we know, okay, you can't just say, no, you can't do that. But if you find out what energizes and motivates people, then you can help them shine in that. And another thing I like to ask employees is, what is a skill that you have that we are not utilizing right now? And I have an employee who is a fantastic knitter. I'm not sure how I can use that in a professional environment. It's good to know that's her hobby. But I do have another one who I work with who loves organizing events. And so we had a really large event in January where we kicked off our campaign. And even though that wasn't technically her job, she just shined in it because she loves to do it. And it helped her be successful in the other parts of her job that might be a little more of energy sappers. So what I would like to ask now for you to put into your chat is, what do you value most? What's the most important thing to you? And I don't mean work, I mean globally. This is a big answer, right? Purpose, family, kids, peace, all of those things. Great, great, great answers. Connection, work culture embraces life balance. Excellent. So the reason I asked this question, and one person I saw did have this response that was what my answer always is, and it's time. Because without time, I can't do any of those other things on the list. I don't have time for family. I don't have time for self-help and health and outside activities, all of that. So guard your time is my advice there. And we know there's going to be commitments and things that we have to do, but when you control your time as much as you possibly can is what I would say, so that you have the time to do the things that are important to you. So it's really, really, it's really key. Okay, another opportunity for you to throw in some answers in the chat here. Has there ever been a time in your career where you wanted to ask for something? Maybe it was a raise, a promotion, additional duties, but you didn't. And my real question is why? Why did you not ask? And I recognize I'm doing this at your workplace, and you might not want to put that in, but but if you're comfortable, say it was your prior job. Please feel free to put that in. So. And what was it that stopped you from making that ask? Fear of failure, right? We're afraid to fail. Well, knowing the type of business that you're in and the type of business that I'm in, we ask people a lot and we get a lot of no's. I mean, like in my business, I get way more no's than I get yeses and have my entire career. And so, and in sales, you're going to get lots of no's. You'll get yeses too, but you're going to get no's. And so it's important not to, of course, take that personally in a professional setting. The biggest thing I can say though, when you're asking for something like this for yourself, the worst thing anyone can do is say no. Like, okay, fine. Ask them why, right? You always want to know the why. And then the why, and then the okay, a year from now, if we have this conversation, what do I need to do differently that I can get to X, that you would see me worthy of a promotion or a raise? And sometimes there's just not the resources there, and maybe that's the reason. But advocate for yourself. And so I know that in general, if I have a good employee who asks for a raise, I'm probably going to give it to them. Phil, don't tell my entire staff I just said that, please. But within reason, right? And it may not be the amount they're asking for, but at least and again, especially with women who are more hesitant to make that ask. I always thank them. I say, thank you for having the courage to have that conversation, because I know that that's really, really hard and really challenging. So, okay. So a couple things I'd like to leave you with is, and these two are going to sound like they are complete opposites. So I said, say yes to opportunities and risk, but say no to things that suck your time, right? And so, in other words, protect your time, right? And again, you can't always do that, but figuring out what those things look like, and being able to say yes to and be willing to take some risks in your career. Because in general, they're not as big a risk as we often think that they are. And so, but at the same time, protect your time. That's the most important thing. So, because you have to be able to have time to do all the things that are important. I didn't talk a lot directly about mentor and mentorship, but it's a really important piece. It's something I've certainly focused on in my career. And this could be more of an informal, not necessarily someone who is, who reports up through me. If there find someone who you admire, and it may not be in your field, may not be in your business, whatever it is, and ask them to mentor you. And 99% of the time, they're going to say yes. And the only reason they might say no is because of time. But I've had lots of people come to me from kind of throughout. It's been within the university, but not in our division, and said, "Hey, I'm really interested in what you do, and I'd like to learn more. Will you mentor me?" Of course, I'm going to say yes, right? And so, and it's interesting. A couple of the people young in their career who I mentored early on, who are not in our division, have gone on to do great careers and in higher education in other parts of the country. So it's been fun to see. And I'm not saying that I had a role in that. I'd like to think I did, but because they showed that gumption to come ask me that showed something right there, that they were willing to do that. So, and then again, back to time, the it's just so important to take care of yourself. This is another place where women, I think, don't do as well as they should, is that we're super good at taking care of other people and not so good at taking care of ourselves. And again, that comes back to time and being able to say, I need this time for myself. I need this hour to read, meditate, do something spiritual, exercise, whatever that looks like. So you can't take care of others until you take care of yourself. And that's a hard thing to do, and especially when there's family needs. I think it's really important is for women to support other women and their families, whatever their families look like. It doesn't matter if their family looks different, right? It might be kids, it might be you're a grandparent raising a kid, it might be you have elderly parents, whatever that looks like. But making sure that we're supporting people to be able to support their families. And so, in closing, as I understand it, the as this continues on, there is a piece of this program that will focus on mental and physical wellness. And again, that comes back to taking care of yourself and figuring out what that looks like for you, and then making sure that you do it. And a good way to do that is to verbalize that to whoever is in your life, who is nearby you, who could potentially stop you from doing that, or could potentially encourage you to do that. So make sure to share that. And with that, I am going to conclude.